everyone, and welcome to Haydn Behind the Music Stand. I'm your host, Patty Ryan, and with me is Jennise Hwang, who is an assistant principal second violinist at the Pacific Symphony based in Orange County, California. During the summer, she also holds the same title at the Brit Festival Orchestra and teaches privately year-round. And we'll be talking about her excitement for thrifting and finding vintage clothing. Welcome, Jennise. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Patty.
Yeah, I've been so excited to have you on the podcast. Ever since I started talking about all my Spoleto memories, it's like you are always in all of those memories. There's maybe one summer that you didn't come back or something.
And those memories of Spoleto, I realize is like where I got to know you.
Right, because we actually first met at Tanglewood, but for whatever reason, our circles didn't overlap as much.
No, honestly, I was a little intimidated by you.
But I would say the same thing about you too. It took.
I'm glad we felt the same way.
Well, I know, but I hate it when that happens because it's like, why did that even happen to begin with? Why do we have those fears or blocks with each other, kind of thing? Like, on a superficial level.
Insecure musicians who are working hard.
Yeah,
busy at summer festival. We're so serious.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, wow, she worked so hard. She's so dedicated to her craft.
Well, I would say the same thing about you. So like... I mean, obviously, roll the tape. We really got to know each other at Spoleto. And I'd say it's probably because Cindy was kind of the linchpin. She was the connector in that because you and Cindy overlapped at New World Symphony. And then when we did all the festivals together, then, it made...
I know. I got to see a different side of you. And I was like, oh, she's so awesome.
Oh, and likewise, too.
Also, all the transcriptions she would do of like popular music and classic rock. I remember thinking, oh, we have like very similar musical tastes.
That's true. Well, and also we are both from Southern California. We grew up in the same part of the country. So that's something that doesn't always happen where you can kind of relate with the geography, also the
vibe.
The vibe, the feeling of Southern California, which is very different than a lot of other parts of the country.
A little more chill.
Yeah,
also, I think our upbringing was kind of similar in some ways.
Yes. Yeah.
With our mothers and,
Well, maybe that's why we had a bit of because we grew up with a little bit of a shield, maybe, and that we were like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this before, but now that I know you, I know that maybe you were shy back then.
Yes.
And I'm super shy before I get to know somebody.
You're right.
And I think both of us took that as like being intimidated.
Right. Well, I'm very happy that we broke that barrier. Well, anyway, I already kind of spilled the beans because I wanted to ask permission about sharing this funny story. It's one of the defining moments for me of being like, oh, I want Jennise in my corner at all times of my life. Because you're such a badass, Jennise. And so I just, it's like, oh, I relate with that, And so anyway, this story is a little bit also a spotlight into festival life as well. This happened at Spoleto. We were having a girls' night together and it was just like 5 or 6 of us.
Face masks and The Notebook.
Yes, because we were watching movies. We wanted to watch movies that took place in Charleston because we were we were wandering the streets of Charleston every day of the festival. But this night we wanted to do a night in, and so we were watching The Notebook because it does take place on the campus of the College of Charleston.
And uses King Street, like that moment when they're walking in the street light and dancing, and it's just them.
Yeah, which is like the main commercial street in Charleston as well. And so making a girls' night, spa night, we had masks on. We were all different shades of color because we probably went to Lush and got all their cool samples and whatever.
That's true, yeah.
And there's like a party going on next door. Probably the beer pong tournament or something was going on next door.
It's a beer pong tournament.
Yeah. Someone snuck into your room to use the bathroom just kind of drunkenly. And then we were like, who the heck did that? And then someone else knocked on the door and tried to do the same thing. And you just were not having it.
Our suite became like the communal bathroom.
Right. Because we
drunken guys.
Right. Exactly. Because it was
put the toilet seat down either.
Right. And like no permission, just like waltzed in too. And so it was absolutely disturbing our spa girls' night. And so we were all very upset with them. But Jennise, you really like spoke up for all of us. And that was, in retrospect, very hilarious because if you can imagine, very composed, very kind-hearted Jennise suddenly kind of saying like, why are you getting in here? And like, especially with a face mask on.
To be honest, I totally forgot that I had a mask on. So I was just waiting for our door to open again. And I just yelled at the person standing there.
And I think the person that opened the door as well was like not ready for that kind of energy at all, or had no context of what was going on. And I know that you guys like talked it out and made up later. So it's not like, but it was just a very funny.
It was fine in the end.
Yes, exactly. But just the image of like all of us in face masks and getting like really upset and like angry.
Right.
But
it
anyway.
was a quick 180 from the Notebook.
Yes, it was. We were all crying. Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
anyway,
that is definitely a good glimpse into festival life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So anyway, that's my funny story. Do you have one for me, Jennise?
Well, I feel like I already said my funny story, or like how I got to know you, where in Tanglewood, I was just so scared. I was like, Patty Ryan, such a great cellist, amazing human, but I'm terrified of her. Like, you just never smiled.
Yeah, well, I think I had game face on / insecurity face on, especially that first year.
Oh.
I know. I wish I could tell my younger self, you're going to be fine. Turn that frown upside down a little bit. You're going to be okay.
That's what I tell my students that I coach and my high school students. I'm like, yes, you are stressed right now, but I promise you, it does get better.
Yes.
And you might as well just enjoy life.
That's totally right.
Because I remember just being so miserable and so insecure and
worried.
Like, oh, I'm not good enough.
Yeah, right. Needing to prove something. Yeah. But anyway, okay. Are you ready for some Spitfire questions?
Sure.
Okay. Mozart or Beethoven?
Beethoven.
Shostakovich or Prokofiev?
Oh, Shosti.
Netflix or video games?
Netflix. The only video game I can actually kind of play is Tetris.
Oh, but that's a skill.
Thank you. And, I'm trying to play Secret of Mana. It's a Nintendo, Super Nintendo one. And it's very fun. And I realize I like button mashing. I have no skill set. I just like buttons
but button
really
mashing
fast.
is also a skill too.
Thank you. Well, it's like practicing trilling.
Right.
But I don't really care for the storyline or like the upgrade of weapons. Like I just want to keep doing that one motion of like slaying or punching. So yeah.
I get that.
Definitely Netflix.
Basil or cilantro?
I like basil more, but I eat more cilantro.
Okay. Harry Potter, Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings?
None of the above.
Okay. Alternate?
Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, okay.
I used to love reading those series.
Yeah. Symphony or chamber music?
Symphony. I love the massive sound, the extremes of sounds we can create and the different texture and colors. And I love being a very small part of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Which is why I guess I gravitate towards orchestras.
Yeah. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite practice room?
When I was in Northwestern, there's a practice room in Regenstein Hall. Where you can see a sliver of downtown Chicago.
Oh.
From like their very narrow but tall windows.
Yeah.
So if I could, I would try to get myself in there and I would zone out and just look downtown and play my scales, thinking like one day when I have time, I will take the train down there. I feel like I practiced longer because it was a beautiful view.
Yeah, and kind of like a nice mental perspective of making it one day or something.
Right,
like,
aspirations.
Yeah, trapped in a practice room. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will get outside when it's not -11.
Exactly, right. Okay, favorite professor shout out?
Oh my god, Mrs. and Mr. Ramos, also from Northwestern, the best teachers and wow, amazing mentors. And I have to say, with the theme of today being like my love for thrifting, I have to give a shout out to my teacher from Colburn School, Mr. Henry Grenier, because he taught me the love of shoes, right?
I forgot that you knew him. Yeah.
Hey, he would always be like, check out my shoes. And I'm like, wow.
Yes. No, he's a very fashionable
Yes,
man.
I know.
Yeah. And such a sweetheart too. Oh, man,
He's the best.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Inside and out.
Yes. Most inspired musical hero of any genre?
The Beatles. I love the Beatles.
I mean, they are the Beethoven of classic rock. They transformed the entire genre from when they started to then. And I think you could probably write some kind of paper that compares the string quartets of Beethoven to the albums of the Beatles.
Oh, would you do that? I would
mean,
totally.
if I was
with you.
Yeah. But I've thought about it a lot and how formally that they both were so experimental in trying to change the path of what, music was supposed to be, so.
Right. I just have so much love. And the older I get, the more I discover.
Yeah. The other day I was bonding over this with past guest Tommy Glass. And because, he's a vocalist, he was singing and playing at the piano, reading down all these, what you would consider B-side, of the Beatles, but they're not B-sides because all the songs are hits. And we were just going through them and he was like, man, every single song, there's something amazing in there. There's the lyrics plus the harmony changes plus the voice writing. It's just, you can't get better than that. Yeah.
Exactly. And all their songs sound different from each other.
Yes. On the spot, what's your favorite Beatles song?
Oh, I love Rubber Soul.
Oh, okay.
The whole album.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's not one song, right? That's like the whole album.
No, that's not one song. But right now, because of where I am in my life, I Will is my song.
Oh. All right, I'm just going because we just keep talking about the Beatles. Okay. Most transformative performance experience?
Probably when I was at a music festival in Idlewild. We had played Egmont, and I never played Egmont before. It was my first time.
So Egmont is a Beethoven overture. It was my first overture. I don't know about you, though. Was that your first? Okay. Like my first Beethoven overture.
Exactly. And just the power of the first opening was so incredible. I just remember getting chills and thinking, wow. And like falling in love with the cello. As a violinist, you're so like self-consumed. And I never paid attention, but I was like, wow, like the body of sound and the depth that the cello part has and can sound is just incredible. I just remember thinking, I love this.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I love it too. Okay. Next piece you'd like to learn?
I would like to learn a concerto, a new concerto, like Glazunov or Berg, because I haven't played either one of those. And that's me being ambitious.
Right. Well, it's okay. It's just aspirational.
Yes.
You put yourself in the practice room and look at Chicago and
right.
play those open. Wait, is that Berg is the open string opening? Yeah. So there you go.
So I got that down.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the hair flip is not podcast translatable, but but that was a perfect timed hair flip. Anyway, Jennise, you've made it through the Spitfire. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you walk me through your musical origin story? How did you first begin on the violin? When did you decide that that was something that you wanted to do as a career? And then walk us through the steps to where you are today.
Awesome. So my mom's a painter and she put me in an art class, enrolled me in an art class when I was 6 years old. After sitting in on one of our art classes, she realized I had very little talent in art. Like I was drawing stick figures. So she decided, maybe art is not for her. Let's try something else. But this art school wouldn't give her a refund. So instead they said, if she doesn't like art, she can take 30 minutes of violin and piano, which we also provide. And that's how I started playing violin and piano when I was 6 years old.
So you did both those instruments at the same time? Mm-hmm. Wow. That's not really that normal, right? I mean, I don't know. From my experience, I started on piano and then a year later picked up cello and then did that.
Your mom make you do piano?
Yes, because my sister did piano and probably because it's just, as a good mother trying to instill some kind of music education into your child. Yeah.
Right. So for me, it was just like, let's just do 30 minutes of both and see which one she likes.
Yeah.
And so I thought I could quit after 3 months, but my mom encouraged me strongly to not quit and to keep it up.
It's because the bill still hadn't been totally spent yet, right?
No. After 3 months, it was all finished. Okay. Oh. That's why I thought I could quit after 3 months.
Got it. Okay.
But then she strongly encouraged me to keep pursuing it. And, at first it was really fun. After 2 years, I gave up the piano because I didn't like going to like competitions or playing in recitals, not on my own instrument.
Yes.
So I'm a very nervous person in general. So then I felt like that would just add to the anxiety of not having played that instrument before and having to sit cold and perform.
Right. Or like having the instrument in your hand, literally as you're walking in somewhere. Yeah.
So I decided to stick with violin ever since I was 8 years old. And at first it was just like a fun hobby that I kind of did seriously, but not too seriously. And, my high school memories are just like going and spending the weekends at Colburn, playing chamber music, having lesson, and hanging out with my friends. Yeah, those are my favorite memories of high school. But I never thought that I would go into music in like freshman and sophomore year. It was after I had a master class with Mrs. Vamos, where afterwards I said, thank you very much. And she's like, what are you thinking of doing? And I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe business, because that's what my parents told me I should do.
Right.
I was just a parrot. I wasn't my own person then. And she goes, you should really consider music. And I teach at Northwestern University, which is a great university. So you can maybe think about it. And I thought about it and I thought, well, what do I have to lose? I love playing violin. I could go to a great university and, still have a great education. So why not? And that's when I started getting a lot more serious.
Yeah, but you also must have recognized that you were probably better than most of the people in orchestra. I mean, at some level that you thought there is a chance that I could be successful in this career.
In Colburn Preparatory School, there were so many violinists that were better than me that were like in Lipsitz studio. I kind of felt like the underdog where I was like not as good as them, but they were my friends.
Right.
So, I just hung out with them and practiced and played chamber music. And yeah, there was a part of me that said, like, if I really concentrate for the next 2 years, this could be a possibility.
I see. So it really was, she was really the one that instilled any kind of motivation for you to... Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Like before then, I wasn't really considering going into music at all.
So had she not ever even shown up, you could have been a business major somewhere.
Yeah. I would unfortunately be in business. Still thrifting probably, but not in music.
But for economic reasons.
Right. So I really do owe my career to her suggestion and encouragement. And I had so many doubts, of course, in high school and in my undergrad. Yeah. And she's always been a pillar and such a great mentor.
And so when you were a senior and you're auditioning, was it only really Northwestern that you auditioned for? Or were there other quote unquote backup schools? Or was that kind of like your eye on the prize was Northwestern?
That was definitely a contender, of course. And then as we did back then for scholarship possibilities, yes, and to see if other teachers are a better fit or a good fit. I think I tried out for 7 schools, conservatories and universities. I ended up going to Northwestern, which I loved, and it was very difficult at the time. Like I had no oral skill or theory training, or very little of it because I gave up piano so early. So I remember that being very difficult for me.
And at Colburn, okay.
I mean, you can choose to do it. And I think I did it my 1 year, my junior year, I took a theory class, but it was just the basics. And then I realized being at Northwestern that, I should go to a conservatory to really hone my crafts. I went to New England Conservatory and studied with Nick Kitchen from the Borromeo Quartet. And it was a great learning experience because everybody was, once again, so much better than me that I felt like I was very behind. So it was a lot of like self-reflection and a difficult and challenging time, but also like a time of such great growth that I'm so thankful that I went there because that got me to go to Tanglewood and meet you.
Yes.
And then eventually get to New World where I realized orchestra's for me. And that's a totally different musical training.
Yes.
From going from college to grad school to being like, we are focusing just on orchestra and winning an audition. None of my past teachers were like orchestral professors.
That's true. Except I guess maybe at Tanglewood you might have gotten some of that training. And I don't know if there's any other orchestral festivals you did, but yeah, I suppose.
Right. Like PMF, Tanglewood, and, a little bit here and there. It was all orchestra festivals that I went to for summer, but I really felt like I learned orchestral excerpts at New World. And what was so great is like people are so encouraging. It doesn't feel like a competition. Like we can all go to the same audition and we all support each other. We all hang out. And it was just like we live together, we work together. So I'm so thankful for that experience. And that's where I got to really know Cindy, who was a past guest, and like Andrew Francois.
Yes. Yeah. I'm biased. That's such a great group of people too.
Yeah. So my closest friends are from New World, and We'll be friends forever. Yeah.
And how many years did you do at New World?
I did 4.5 actually.
A half?
Because I started.
Oh, that's right. Because there are some weird rotation things that happen like
Exactly. So I got called in January and I moved out of Boston. And then so I did what they call a 0 year for half a year. And then 3 years went by and I was auditioning and getting close, but didn't win a job yet. And you have to write a letter to MTT and say like, this is why I would like to have another 4th year. These are the projects I want to do. I just need a little more time to win a job or whatnot. And luckily I was granted that. So I did 4 years there. And then the summer after leaving New World, I won Pacific Symphony. That's my first job.
Yeah. And so you won a job that is back home where you grew up.
Exactly. It's so wonderful to be back in a place that I've grown up and with a community that has supported me throughout my life. And to come back to home base and play for an audience member that feels like my community, and for my friends and family to be able to come and see this long journey
of your
what
career.
I call my career. Yeah.
So how long have you been with the Pacific Symphony?
This is my 4th season.
Wow.
And we're, going through a strange year.
Yes.
So we are all socially distanced on stage and wearing masks. But as of February, we have started playing together again. And I knew when I was thinking about this during the pandemic that it would be a very emotional first rehearsal. But I remember just walking into the hall and just feeling that space and hearing the echoes and thinking, wow, I'm home.
Yeah.
This is some place that I used to spend so many hours rehearsing, performing. It just felt like a homecoming.
Yeah. I think we really all as performers miss our concert halls because we're doing so much remotely now. And at first it was kind of fun to have all these recording projects literally in our living rooms or basements or wherever. But
not drive an hour and a half.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah.
The rush hour.
Yes. The convenience of finally being at home and not having to do all those things. But acoustically, you can't beat a concert hall. I mean, that's the reason why they're created, is for that very purpose of amazing acoustic sonorous sound that an orchestra or any group can make. So I can totally relate with that feeling of homecoming.
Right. I miss our audience.
Yes.
Because as performers, like, you get feedback and that energy is so symbiotic, like that relationship. We performed and recorded everything and we stood up and it was dead silent. It was crickets. And I remember thinking like, oh, I played badly. And thinking like, no, there's nobody here. Like, can I get like an applause track?
Right. No, I know, right? I know, it's weird. It's a glorified recording session, but it's not at the same level. I don't know. It's like a really weird...
I just feel like I'm in the twilight zone.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful to be playing and making music with my friends and colleagues. But
this is the best that we can possibly do at the current moment.
Oh, absolutely.
And we all really need arts and music in our lives. I mean, just as a culture, as humanity. And
it's sustenance.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it refreshes our daily lives and transports us away from any negative thoughts that we might be having during this really hard time.
Yeah. I'm so thankful for what we do. Yeah. I realize even playing for people over Zoom or through my window has been, any human connection right now is just like, wow. Mm-hmm. Any response I get from any audience, whether it be one person or at most like 5 currently,
right,
is better than what my stuffed bear can do.
Exactly. Oh. So please, everyone, keep tabs on what all of us musicians are trying to do, because at the end of the day, we're just all trying to have that, we crave that connection together.
And we can't wait to play for you guys again soon.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jennise, is this a good time to take a break?
Yeah.
All right.
Get some water.
Nice. Okay. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. So before the break, Jennise and I were just reminiscing of all the restaurants and places that we would go in Charleston and have amazing food, and how you would run to get donuts as well. That was your fitness, was to do that.
Yeah, we'll run and work for food.
Yes.
Always.
Absolutely. But this also ties in very well with your outside interest, which is thrifting and finding vintage clothing, because that's actually when I first started getting interested in it, was in Charleston with you, because you were like, we need to go check out some of these boutiques. And I actually ended up picking out a couple items of clothing that, unfortunately, one of them I had to retire because it did get a little bit too tattered. But one of the other one is still, I can still wear it. And during the summer, it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, they had great consignment shops in Charleston, completely different styles. And I think they had a lot of affluent, cultured ladies who would retire their clothing there. And I was like, we have to go.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, how did you even begin to get interested? I guess you were mentioning Henry Grenier.
Yeah. So when I was younger, my mom bought all my clothes for me.
Yes, same with my mom.
Like, right, the day I was born to high school, she was like, why waste your time shopping when I can shop for you and dress you the way I want to?
Yes.
So I really had no style, personal style. But Mr. Grenier would show off his shoes and pants and belts, and he had just beautiful blouses and jackets. Oh my gosh.
Yes, what a very fashionable man.
Very aesthetically pleasing. You should check out his Facebook page. He's gorgeous.
Yes.
So by the time I got to college, I realized Chicago, you need to wear jeans and layer up. And I've never wore jeans in high school or middle school.
Really?
Like dressy slacks. Yeah, because my mom dressed me. So she dressed me like her.
What did you wear? I wore jeans like my whole life, so that's why I'm shocked.
I wore a lot of like dressy slacks with, like a blouse.
Okay. Wow.
Like whatever,
very professional.
It was definitely not my age group. I wasn't one of the popular kids going with all the trends or anything because I didn't get to pick out my clothes. So once I got to college, I was discovering like my personal style. I also needed more like layering warmth, so I had to wear jeans. And my then friend was like, we don't have a lot of money, but thrift stores are great because you can try out a lot of different styles. You never know what you're going to find. And I remember telling my mom over the phone from college and being like, I went thrifting today and I got so much stuff for like $20. My mom is Asian, so she goes, those clothes have like other people's soul in them.
Oh, wow.
To scare me from like not buying.
Wow.
And maybe that's like a Korean fable. I don't know. I'm Korean American.
Yes.
And I was like, cool. But if I wash it, like it's totally fine.
Right.
Don't worry.
That's right. Oh my God.
Wow.
So intense. I think probably you wash it, it's going to be just like any other garment that was made.
Right. And hopefully the person who owned the clothes before me like loved it too.
Yeah.
And now I get to give it a second life. So since then I started, so that's like 2004, before like thrifting or vintage shopping was a thing. I started thrifting then, but you would find like all kinds of gems, things that I could never afford, like designer goods. And also like the quality and fit of the clothes fit me better. I thought the clothes lasted longer than fast fashion. And Northwestern is in a small town called Evanston, so all the girls would shop in the exact same stores and have the same outfits or same coats, and I kind of didn't like that.
Yeah.
So that's when my love for thrifting began.
So when you go and travel, you purposely find shops to go check out, right? And is it word of mouth that you find these places, or is it just a Google search?
That's a great question. So on YouTube, there's so many vloggers now that will thrift in their home state or city. So I will watch those and go on a rabbit hole. Go down the rabbit hole and watch all these YouTube videos and save them in my Google Maps. So the only things that are saved in my Google Maps are either luthiers in different parts of the country, food places like restaurants I want to try, and I would say 70% is thrift stores and consignment shops.
I mean, okay, so list of important things in Jennise's life. It's incredible. That's so smart, because then you'll always know where to go.
Yeah. This is my lifelong research.
Well, what happens though, has any of the stores that you've frequented in the past, have they closed down or had to shut down? And
sometimes, yeah. I've had it happen where I was so excited to go there and I would drive there and there's nothing but a vacant building.
Yeah.
And, with I guess being in a city for a summer festival or like for an audition, the great thing about running or walking is you never know what you might come across, right? Like I might see a store that's not advertised on Google or on a website and I could just walk in, and prices are usually better too. So I get my cardio in hopes that I will find things to eat and wear.
And where? I mean, there could be worse motivations, you know? So when you walk into a vintage store, are there any certain things that, as a person who maybe has never walked in, is there anything that they need to know about when you're going into a store?
I think the first thing to know is bring hand sanitizers, wear comfortable clothes that you can put clothes over, like leggings and a tank top. Some places don't have dressing rooms, so it's great to just have the option to try it on over things that are skin tight, just to see how it fits your body. Be nice to the people that work there. Sometimes they might know or have seen something come in that would suit your style or your size, and they might help you out. So it always pays to be kind, you know?
Of course. And I remember also when we would go in Charleston that they were very, very helpful, and they had an aesthetic eye for certain things that I think I wouldn't necessarily have thought to try on. But then after trying on, I was like, oh, this is kind of, I never would have thought. Or they would also know the history of the clothing, which I also found to be kind of intriguing because there's some kind of trunk sale or whatever that they picked up from this particular place or whatever, and they have a story behind the garment. And
exactly.
Yeah, you can't get the storyline when you walk into an H&M is that it was made in China or something like that, you know?
Right. Factory produced with not that much love, I guess. You know, so much of the thrill of thrifting for me is like just to touch the garment and feel excited, like my heart starts beating very quickly. And I look, put it against myself and, you know, see, is this a possibility? And this is something that nobody else in the world has.
Right.
Or very few people would. You know, it's not like cookie cutter. It's also something that's like, I think first impressions are really important to me because I am very shy and introverted, where I kind of let my clothes do the talking depending on my mood and the day or the scenario, like the performance that I'm going to give. So I do pick a lot of close to just say hi first before I open my mouth or play the violin.
Right. That actually reminds me a lot about what a previous guest on the podcast, Ivo Bukolik, said about his outside topic was, garments and his personal style and how he came about to that. So can I ask you a similar question? How did you discover your own style after your mom had been telling you what it was before?
Yeah, I think it's still changing, but I like things that are fitted and I like very dark, muted colors. I think that complements my skin tone. And as a performer, you can never go wrong with black clothes. Right. So I thrift a lot of black clothes. And back in the day, pants were way more high-waisted, which is great for someone who sits down and plays, has to turn pages. I know that I won't be revealing any unwanted skin, things like that. So I also try to find things that are different. So when I choose like a concert gown, something that's unique, for me, fitting is super important. So I'm lucky to have a great tailor.
You have a personal tailor.
There's a lady who, she's Korean. She works from her garage. She's amazing.
Oh.
She just like makes everything fit you the way it should. So she takes things in. So if there's like a garment I like, for example, I found this huge button-down wrap dress that's black. And I thought, wow, this is going to be great for concerts and it's cotton. So I love looking at fabric. Rayon and polyester is very difficult to wash.
Yes.
And to upkeep maintenance. Also, it's synthetic fibers, so it's not as great for you. But like linen and cotton, oh gosh. And silk, you can find a lot of vintage silk pieces and wool pieces. But having a tailor has tremendously helped me just be more creative when I go thrifting, because I know that she can take things in, like this huge dress I bought. She made it to fit me. Now I love the weight of the cotton and the fullness of my skirt.
That's great. And I mean, because you have a relationship with this tailor, it's not like it's breaking the bank to go and get it really tightly fitted to your specs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I try not to spend more than $10 on any one item of clothing.
What?
And that's the beauty of thrifting. I know, right? So you can buy shirts, even at Goodwill, like maybe $12, $13 will be dresses. And coats might be a little more, but usually like $10. So to get it tailored to me, even if it's $10 to bring up the seams or whatnot, is the total cost is not as much as if I was to buy one article of clothing from a fast fashion brand.
That's right. Wow. That's kind of inspiring.
Yeah. And it's so much fun. The thrill of the hunt.
Yeah, like kind of finding those hidden gems is, as you're saying, part of the game, part of the, and also kind of getting the steal, right? Or not the steal.
Bargain.
Yeah, right? I mean, that is also probably part of the appeal is like, I'm getting this for a huge reduction of what I would normally pay if I went to your average Bloomingdale's or something like that.
Right. There's nothing bad about thrifting and secondhand shopping because it's good for the environment. It's good for your personal finance. You know, you're going to find unique pieces and maybe even like go out of your comfort zone. Like there's been many times when I bought something that's like very loud and colorful, which I thought is not me because I like muted dark colors, but I realized it's a perfect blouse for performing in front of children. Just get like an immediate reaction of joy just from an article of clothing. So
yeah, I remember there's a particular dress that I can't remember if you found it in Charleston, but I remember you were wearing it a lot at Spoleto because I always thought that you looked like a beautiful model in this dress. And it was this white, very flowy, very summery, like a very southern summery dress. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Is it tie at the waist?
I think so, yes. So there's a part of me that, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but there's a slight stigma that if you go thrift shopping, that you aren't really fashionable.
Well, I feel like so many people do it now.
But we're slowly getting out of the stigma, right?
I see.
You know, if you went to Salvation Army and bought your clothes there, I guess I remember growing up and having this idea that I have to get my clothing at Nordstrom's. I have to get my clothing at these places because if I didn't, then I was not fashionable.
Not following the trend.
Yes, exactly. But I guess my point of bringing up the dress was proving everybody wrong. And that was like such a very, very beautiful, fashionable look. And I was going to follow up with another question of, are there any particular pieces that stand out to you in your collection of garments?
I would say now my closet is 80% thrifted clothes. And I have thrifted everything from like coats to blouses to dresses and like gowns for concert dresses. And I love that dress. I did get it in Charleston. You're absolutely right. And I wore it for like, I think our gala party and any chance I got because I thought it was such a fun dress. And it was like breathable because it was linen.
Yes.
That dress. And I wore one to a New World Symphony gala that I thrifted in Miami. And the bustier part of it is just like, it looks like leaves, like flower petals. And I just thought that was such an interesting detail in a gown. And the bottom is just like a maxi black skirt that's like a chiffon. I love that piece. I also bought in Pittsburgh while I was rehairing my bow. I went across the street to a consignment shop and got like a summer dress that I loved. One day I will be going to a garden party, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I think probably sooner than you think because you can safely be outdoors with people, right? So
right. I'm hoping to, you know, wear that for a garden party or an outside performance. I have like Chanel trousers, high-waisted trousers.
Wow.
That I thrifted for $30.
Wow. I mean, that's going to be my follow-up question as well. I don't know, but if there's any more garments that you wanted to share with us.
Oh, I mean, I could go on for days. But yeah, no, what's your follow-up question?
Well, my follow-up question is, what in your collection has been your best bargain deal? Was it the Chanel pants or was it something else?
I think my Chanel pants and Chanel blouse, because the blouse was only $10. And it was like tucked away, way in the back. And I just felt something very soft. And it was like shimmery pink, which is not really my color. And I remember just looking at it and being like, I just have to buy it. It just doesn't matter. It's a little small for me. But if I tuck it in, no one knows that it's tight.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's incredible that you're getting such high quality garments for $10. That's $30.
Right.
And that's going to last you for so long as well.
Right. So when I first started thrifting, I would just buy like anything and everything that I kind of liked. And now that my wardrobe has grown and I'm trying to be a more conscious consumer, even if it is cheap and even if I do like it, if I don't think it's a piece I will wear for 5+ years, I won't buy it now because I feel I've come to a place where I'm really happy with all the things I do have, and additional pieces would just be things to complement and to last me a lifetime.
Right. What do you do when you're ready for a garment to kind of live another life elsewhere? Do you just donate it back, or do you sell it, or how do you?
So when I'm ready to retire a garment, I usually have like a pile and I show like my cousins or friends if they want anything from it. Especially like in New World, that was super helpful because there's so many of us and we are tired of wearing the same things all the time. And since I've been in California, sometimes I will resell it to places like Buffalo Exchange or Crossroads because they also take vintage clothes. Those are 2 consignment shops, and I get credit from them so I could buy from them again. So it feels like a circle. Or I will donate to a smaller thrift store. I try not to donate back to Goodwill or Salvation Army. Even though I will shop from them, I try to donate my clothes to like a mom and pop thrift store or consignment shops because I feel Goodwill and Salvation Army are doing just fine.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So I try to support that, or do like before pandemic times, like do a yard sale.
So that's actually another question I had as well. I mean, there's a Buffalo Exchange down the street from where I live as well, or there's Plato's Closet as well. There's all these, and I remember shopping at Crossroads. I used to do that all the time living in San Francisco. But I'm assuming when you go thrifting and when you go traveling to other cities, you specifically seek out the mom and pop consignments. Do you have a preference between going to something that's a little bit more mainstreamed, like a Buffalo Exchange, Crossroads, Plato's Closet, or is it kind of just whatever is closer and convenient and in your neighborhood? Or
I think I just go everywhere.
There's no preference.
Okay. I mean, I do understand that like maybe I should not shop at Goodwill and Salvation Army because they are doing well and it's hard to, maybe my dollar doesn't go as far to help the community. I do take that into mind when I do purchase, but it doesn't mean I won't go in there and peruse because you just never know what's going to be in every thrift store. So you've lived in Houston and I love being dropped off in like the Montrose.
Are you like thrifting around there at some point? Was it with you? I must have done that with other people because I bought a dress.
No, we bought it together.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Because I was like, I remember buying that blue dress that I have that I like wear all the time. And I think I was with you.
It's gorgeous on you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I remember we got coffee.
Yeah.
Then we started walking and like that street is great because you can hit the Guild shop, couple of thrift stores. I forget like the Pavement. And then there's like a huge Goodwill at the end. And then there's like a Buffalo Exchange if you cross down Shepherd. Like the fact that I know these street names is only because I walked it and shopped it.
Right. Yeah.
So, no, I don't. I go everywhere. I shop anywhere and everywhere.
Well, that's fine. And I know that when we were just catching up before we started even recording the podcast, you were saying kind of as, I think, a slight joke about a future endeavor potentially of actually opening up your vintage shop. Is that actually something that is in your vision of what you would like to do in the future?
Well, yeah, we were talking about what I would be doing if I couldn't make a living as a musician.
Right.
And our friends are so incredible. They're doing all kinds of stuff like coding and getting new degrees and trying out all these awesome stuff. And I was like, honestly, I would start an online vintage shop. A resale store. Right. And while right now it's not something I want to do, I think in the future it would be something fun to do for me just because I go thrifting so often and I want to share the joys of secondhand shopping with a wider audience. Sure. And I only have one body, so other people should enjoy the goods too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also like you have an eye for things now because you've done all this like research of going through these vintage stores. You know what to kind of stock in your future vintage store.
Yeah, like everything else, if you love what you do and you surround yourself with things that like inspire or that you love or is aesthetically pleasing to you, like there's an audience for that.
Right. Well, what a wonderful tie-in back into music.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jennise. I didn't have to work for that one.
I can't start a vintage shop yet because I'm still furthering my career.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. In the meantime, though, I mean, I look forward to seeing any and all photos that you might have of anything that you end up collecting.
Oh,
May I ask you two final questions?
absolutely.
What, in your opinion, is the most common misconception of classical music and the classical music world?
That it's elitist and it's boring. And I think that it's definitely not elitist. And I'm sorry that it came off that way. I think we're trying now to do a better job of making classical music more accessible, starting with in the schools at a young age performing and kind of having like a mixed genre of music so people can gravitate and know that like yes these are the greats, but all music is great and whatever emotion it invokes in you is completely wonderful and right, and there's no wrong feeling to have. Even like being bored is okay. I have definitely sometimes been bored in Bruckner.
Sorry, I haven't hit my computer.
But you know, that's a feeling and you are entitled to all of those feelings, but I feel a big misconception that is that like it's only for a certain kind of person. I am hoping that I can inspire everybody to realize like it's for everybody and your opinions all matter and are welcomed, and we just want to start a dialogue and hang out.
I can't stop remembering what Cindy said in her episode to me regarding a comment that Michael Tilson Thomas made, which is that classical music is evoking endangered emotions. And I really love that wording and that visual because, as you're saying, there are so many emotions that you can experience while listening to classical music, and not all of them are going to be positive. I think that's maybe another misconception, at least from our end, is that we're always trying to sell it. And so we're trying to sell it as if it's the best thing on earth. It's like something that you can't miss and everyone's missing it. But at the same time, music can make you frustrated. And that's part of the process of going through life and experiencing these quote unquote endangered emotions.
No, you're absolutely right. I remember listening to that podcast and thinking, what a beautiful constructed sentence. That's so true. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right that we try so hard to sell our product because we're like, you know, we have to get donations and people in the seats and it's got to be the best and show them. But that's not human nature.
Right.
Human nature is all the other stuff too. But to, you know, let people realize like it's all encompassing, these feelings of polar opposite and extremes. Like we go through that in a 40-minute symphony. Not every note and measure is going to be like mind blowing.
Like some of the tremolo in Bruckner can be quite snoozy.
Painful.
And painful. Although I have to say, I am a fan of Bruckner. I do like his music, but I don't play it as much as you. So, you know.
I love listening.
Anyway, let's move on. And my second question, after all the impact that COVID has done to classical music, what do you think is something positive that will enhance and carry on in our profession?
I hope post-pandemic that people will have the access to watch a concert in the comforts of their own home or choose to go to a concert hall. The accessibility, you know, we're realizing with technology, we can bring it to wherever you are and where you feel comfortable. So I'm hoping that out of all of this, that's something a positive, doing wallcasts like New World Symphony, streaming it virtually for a fixed price. And maybe you might be inspired to come to the concert hall and check out the acoustics and hang out, you know, in a social event again one day. I also think like before with coaching students in different communities, it's always an endeavor for me to get there, but also for all the students and the family members to get there and to have lessons or like coachings. But I'm hoping that with learning about technology and audio and video editing, like we can do Zoom coachings like you are currently and make it just accessible to a wider group of students who may not have the time or the resources to drive themselves or get to a location.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's exactly my hopes and dreams too for going forward after this crazy couple years.
Yeah, we're hanging in there.
Yeah. Okay, Jennise, are there any platforms or websites for our listeners to learn more about you or any upcoming projects?
So you can check out what I'm performing at the Pacific Symphony website website. I have an Instagram. My handle is at Jennise Hwang, all lowercase. I also have a Facebook page. And if you'd like to go thrifting, right now it might not be the safest in all parts of the country, but please check out Etsy. There's many vintage shops there. Poshmark, The Real, ThredUp. They're all great online resources to scratch that shopping itch.
Nice. And if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, go ahead and press that subscribe button and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The reviews and ratings help this podcast be more visible to others, and it's a free way to support the podcast. Another free way is to tell your friends and family about it, and you can always become part of the Haydn Behind the Music Stand family by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Haydn Music Stand. Don't forget, there's a Spotify playlist available that contains all the pieces we've discussed on the podcast. It's a very long list, and I'm sure you could probably go back and forth the country a couple more times listening to all the music, but I mean, seriously, don't get intimidated by it. It's just all really great music. And the link is always in the description of each episode. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Haydn Music Stand for more content. Thank you so much, Jennise, for being on the show today. It's so great to see you and to see that you're doing so well and hanging in there like everyone else.
Thank you, Patty. This was so much fun. Thank you for letting me talk so much about clothes.
Yes, no, always. No, it's great.
It was so fun reminiscing about like our past summer festivals.
I know. I can't wait for the time that we can reconvene and have a girls' weekend or something in Charleston.
An uninterrupted face masks and notebook session.
Yes, let's do it. All right. And thanks for listening. Say bye, Sushi. Like, had she not... Oh, sorry. Had...
Look, if anything...
Oh. No, please, go, please. Excuse me.
No, that's okay.
I'm sorry, I tried to suppress it and it didn't had a voice of its own, literally. Sorry.
No, Patty, this is awesome.
That's probably going in the bloopers.